Hello, welcome to the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, improving the performance and transforming busy and overweight professionals, business owners, and consultants along with their teams to become fitter, happier, and more confident. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is all about sharing passion, knowledge, and expertise around business and personal performance. From our hosts, myself, Martin Sharp, a 30-year change maker in businesses large and small, and Dominic Furness, a world traveller and life enthusiast, plus special guests sharing their know-how, expertise, and experience in making changes in business and in themselves, featuring inspirational stories, insights, tips, and practical knowledge, bringing more healthier, happier, and higher achievement to your world.
Why not follow this podcast? We are live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We very much appreciate all of your support.
So sit back and enjoy this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast, brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yes, this is your second episode where you're in the hot seat.
Oh, yeah. I'm loving it. It's getting hot.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because we were just talking offline about, what to share, what not to share, and kind of all those kind of things. And it is an interesting kind of blurring of the lines because obviously we're family. But we also work together, and we've also got these amazing passions which we're sharing with other people because we know the value that it's brought to ourselves. We know the value it's brought to so many others, and we've seen the kind of improvements in their lives and their performance, and it just fuels us to want to be able to share more. So yeah, it's just kind of really interesting, kind of having that kind of moment to think, actually, what do we want to share? What do we don't want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it comes out quite naturally.
Yeah. So today, let's focus specifically around meals because, again, your meal habits has changed dramatically over the last 6 years. I mean,
yeah, I could speak forever on this.
Yeah, so a Corona and a pizza would have been your go-to at one point when you were probably 18.
I'll have to correct you there. Byron Bay Lager and a Domino's pizza. In Australia, this is fantastic. But yeah, I say it all the time, I do miss that diet, and if I could have it, I would have it. But yeah, times change, things change, and yeah, always time to make a change.
Yeah, and I know you're saying if you could have it, you would have it, but and the thing is, you can. If you were back in Byron Bay, I'm pretty sure you could have a pizza and a Byron Bay beer. But right this second in time, you're not there, and this is the other side of not being too restrictive when it comes down to eating. So for a lot of people, they think, okay, the only way to be improving their performance is to go on a really restrictive diet, only eating certain things at certain places at certain times in a certain way. And while there is merit to some of that, what it does is it kind of creates this very toxic environment by which they feel so restricted that when they do finally break it, it's just all hell breaks loose. Whereas I think you've kind of got a nice mix now of how you deal with it.
And I will have to 100% agree with you with what you're saying. If you're doing that, it's a toxic environment. And yeah, as soon as that ends, people go crazy. And then it was probably worse than what it was before. I think of professional athletes who are doing a crazy boxing camp or they've got the Olympics coming up or something, that is probably a good time to be in that toxic environment and absolutely dial in and go crazy, but then have those I'm sure those people will have, but not all of them. There is people in the UFC and stuff who really cut the weight for the fights and everything, then afterwards just eat like a horse. Probably not the best thing for your actual body, but on a performance perspective, they're getting the goal they desire. But yes, being relaxed around food is definitely the better place to be because you don't want to be on top of it, but you don't want to be getting totally stressed out because that spike in cortisol will cause you more damage than the eating uncleanly would be if it made you more relaxed. And that has definitely been a thing to learn. We'll say that because you read all this stuff. Some people say this, some people say that. There's too much information. It's information overload. People are constantly disagreeing in that world, and it's just you just basically got to pick your battles really and choose what you believe in and also what works for you. And what I mean, again, Amy, you're probably not gonna I'm bringing this up again, but I have an argument in myself with honey where on a scientific scale, is really not the best thing to have. Like basically anything that spikes your blood sugar, like honey does, is not the best thing to be eating. But I just cannot pass it through my head that honey is possibly an unhealthy thing to eat. It tastes so delicious. It comes from the plants. I'm thinking, if I was like in like 1000 BC and I found some honey, I would be going crazy. And yeah, that's just like one example of what I personally decided in my own head is not an unhealthy food. But I think everybody else in the industry would disagree with me. So that's what I'm saying by that.
Yeah, and again, this all comes down to with the studies you read, the people you listen to, etc. And then it's trying to clear that idea of fact versus fiction, and things like honey. I mean, it is. If you just looked at it as being, how can you look at it as being bad? The body breaks everything down into being either carbohydrates, amino acids, or fatty acids. Effectively, as far as it's concerned, it's building blocks. And you need all those building blocks to be able to do something with it. I think the key issue is when you take things to excess. That's when the kind of the problems are, or you cut things out altogether. For example,
I'll say, but anything that spikes your blood sugar is not ideal, but it doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Yeah, and in some cases you need it. So, for example, when just look at what we've been doing over the last year around marathon training, we need the extra kind of amounts of energy that's being brought in to be able to get through that amount of endurance, and without it, that would not have worked.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like this is very much specifically based on like what you're doing at the time. And this is why it's such a. This is why I could just go endlessly. It's such a game of like balance of like what you're doing and what you should fuel with, and how like it's what your body needs at the time, so it's fine. But it's sometimes hard to think that when if you're having it at a different time, it's actually like really terrible. So yeah, like it's a game, is what it is, and it's all learning all the time. And what works for some people might not work for other people. I know like your fueling strategy for running would like absolutely kill me. And like in the gym, I am very much a like fuel before I work out, and I do have a bit of protein afterwards. But I don't think that everybody could work out with a full belly like me. Like I have like a big meal of porridge before, and I know that some people won't be able to do that. And I know that I suffer from like a blood sugar crash if I do intensive training after, say, like something like really carby or meaty, so like fish and chips or a roast dinner. If I had that, like full portion, I'm just like, and then go to do exercise, like I'm pretty sure like exercise is meant to be a good thing to do to balance out your blood sugars, but mine crash beyond belief if it's like after that. So again, it's like taking the knowledge but applying it to your own body, because it is going to work slightly different to other people.
Yeah, spot on, and it's great to kind of hear you kind of embrace that, because there's kind of those big kind of building blocks that you can work with. So, for example, the workout window, making sure you fuel yourself for the workouts that you're doing. So again, that you make sure you've got the energy to go into it, you've got the ability to repair after it, etc. So that kind of that is almost like a given for everybody. But how you deal with that strategy is a very specific way of working for each individual person. Saying, for example, if you're outside of that kind of workout window, again, how are you fueling yourself for the non-workout parts of the day, or if in fact if you've got an entire rest day coming up where you're not doing any form of exercise, that changes again. But that kind of strategy is the same for everybody, because that's just how bodies work. But the specifics about how do you fuel that, whether you're going to do it like you say, you fuel with oats and fruit and proteins, etc., to bring yourself into it, and then you fuel differently as you come kind of out of it.
That's a good observation.
Yeah, and again, your fueling strategy for what you do when you're doing things like rock climbing, or when you're doing skating and hiking, etc., is different than what you do for your weight training. So again, you've learned that kind of adaptation piece between which kind of exercise you're doing and how you need to fuel for that exercise.
Definitely. And again, it's a Frankenstein's monster. It's like, that is always my analogy of like, you've just got to take that information, you've got to apply it, and then I think decide for yourself if it's working or not. Like, and as you were saying, it's very important to like, because it's very, or at least I found when I was starting this whole thing out, is like, like I was worried about having like quote unquote cheat meals and things like that, but it's like, it's not, I don't like that mindset of like, this is a cheat meal. It's just like, this is my meal. And like, you can counteract it. Like, you got to look at the big scale, the big chart of like what that's doing. Like, yeah, there's some things I would avoid. Like, I wouldn't see myself like going to eat fast food anymore simply because I don't want it. But if I was in like a situation where it was the only thing to eat, you'd have to accept that, like, okay, like fueling with this bad fuel is going to be better than having no fuel. And like, over the rest of like the month, I can probably like fix this, and it's not going to be the best, but it's also better than like starving yourself. I would say, like, if it came to that, and you've just got to make those decisions. And if you made the decision wrong, make sure that even if you make the wrong decision, you make that decision right. No matter what decision you made, you've made the decision based off the knowledge you have available to you at the time and how you feel at the time. At the time, it felt right, so it was the right decision. You don't know how the other outcome might have gone if you made the different decision. But yeah, just learn from things and dial it in.
Yeah, it's interesting you were saying about the fast food side of things, and a friend of mine, Ben, who's also a great coach. He does lots of body transformational pieces. Very much a body sculpting person, bodybuilding kind of person. And there has been times where he's gone for a photo shoot and he's kind of on his way, and he's kind of realized actually he's not got the look that he wants, whether it's because it's too vascular, not vascular enough, etc. And he might stop off and he'll have like a McDonald's or something, and then that little change, for example, the balance of fats and salts and various other things that's in there, he knows how to utilize that as a way of being able to get the look that he wants at the end of it. So it's, like you say, sometimes it might be not what you do every single day, but actually sometimes if it's just kind of for that tweak, and it's knowing your body and knowing when to do that, when to kind of have that change. A bit like, for example, over the weekend when I did the Yorkshire Three Peaks in 8 hours and 17 minutes, and part of that was running, part walking. A lot of that was going back to the fueling strategy I'd learned from the marathon running. So adding in more carbohydrates, and that kept my body fueled. So I didn't feel at any point where I was running out of energy or had those kind of big slumps. It really was the burning in the calves and in the quads and the buildup of lactic acid that was kind of causing that kind of delay for me. But again, coming back to your kind of view on fueling, obviously we've seen the habits have kind of changed.
Well, hang on, I just want to, before you get into that, I just want to say that, like, it seems from what you were just saying there that it's all very goal specific, is what it sounds like. So Ben's goal was to look a certain way for his photo shoot. Your goal was to be able to like run comfortably, and then like my overarching goal, whereas there'll be little ones throughout the days or the weeks what I'm doing, like what you're saying, but like the overarching one for me is like longevity. That is kind of where my headspace is at, and the ways that I'm eating and fueling are always tied back in to that. As you saw, like like, I don't know, like I still do try eat the same types of foods even if I'm changing the exercises, but I just might have to like swap them around in the day a bit for it to like work properly.
Yeah, I'm the same. So my kind of the long term goal of this is to be healthy and happy and high achieving for as long as I possibly can. So I remember the amazing Dr. Alka, and I'm going to try and get Dr. Alka on the show at some point. She was talking about the 1,000,000 hour life. You know, so you live to 114, and then the thing is, from the evidence she was showing, that actually this is so achievable today. But the thing is, it's the difference between lifespan versus health span. And, you know, you can live to, 80, 90, 100, for example, but what's the quality of life you get when you're at that kind of age? And, and it has been something which has been very shocking to me, and we're very lucky that I've got 3 sets of parents that I can actually go and look at. So I've got my dad and his partner, my mum and her partner, and I've got my mother and father-in-law, and each one of them are roughly about the same age, but they've all got a completely different quality of life with regards to how that they can live. So my dad's been medically retired since he was in his mid-50s. He's not a very old chap, and that kind of reflects, but he's still got that very much that chippiness about him. He's always looking for the good things in life and trying to see life on the bright side. So even though, he's literally spent the last 20 odd years not being in a good place from a health span perspective, he still tries to have a good mindset. My mum and her partner have been a lot better, but they're now starting just to get to that age where things are getting a little bit more restrictive. And then we look at my mother and father-in-law. They're like mountain goats. They're still like bouncing around all over the place, running around like gazelles on steroids, and that's the kind of lifestyle I'm looking for when I get older. So I know, for example, utilizing that as a almost like the guiding light. Say when I get towards the end of my life, towards the 90s, 100 maybe, I don't know, that actually I've still got a quality of life that's there. I'm not spending 10, 20, 30 years actually in ill health, because that's not really a great health span.
No, and the food is a big part of it, but among the other things that we talk about in these podcasts, like it all ties in together, like the mindset, the movement, because you got to keep your head right as well. And like, yeah, like mindset's one thing to that, but then movement's a very good way to get like blood to it, to keep it healthy and like get the right endorphins flowing, etc. And then like the food, like for example, just I don't know, like giving it like omegas or whatever, like it all just ties into the same thing, which is great that we are getting to talk about this.
Absolutely, and again, you've got that balance. So, for example, when you start looking at your diet now, certainly in comparison to where it was before, you've always been one to eat your greens, so that's never been an issue.
Yeah, I've always liked the veg in it.
Yeah, so you've lived life on the veg for a while, and so that's not that definitely gives you the big tick in the box. You have that nice kind of mixture of like meats and fish, and so again, you've got a great kind of combination there. So you're touching on like things like the omega-3s, omega-6s, etc. You're bringing in those that kind of help bring that kind of balance in with things like the mackerel that you eat and stuff, and other oily fish. And you kind of, again, you balance this out with carbohydrates, so that you're not denying your body of anything. So for some people, for example, when they think about, how do I fuel myself? It's like carbs are the enemy. I mustn't have any carbs,
Yeah,
etc.
it's not true. I try. It's not true. It's not true. However you balance it, it's not true.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a case of bring your body back to the things that it needs. It's glucose, which is carbohydrates, it's amino acids, which are your proteins, and it's the fatty acids, which comes from your fats, effectively.
But you just don't really want, like with the carbohydrates, like if you are worried about that, it's better to have the slower release ones. So have like the brown pasta, have the brown rice, have like, I'm not going to say sweet potato because I don't know if that's actually a fact, but like but like jumbo rolled oats, like anything that takes your body a bit longer to digest is going to release energy in a better way.
All depends on what your target is. So
this is what I'm saying. It's too goal specific. Like you cannot have this conversation with like this. Like you can't have the blueprint for everybody. It doesn't exist. It's all down to how your body works.
Yeah,
Usually. Like it's crazy. Like if I had your diet, it wouldn't work, and if you had my diet, it wouldn't work. So
exactly. But the best part is you know that now, and you worked out which bits kind of work for you. And I love that kind of idea of there's nothing off the table. So straight away that whole mindset piece of as soon as you take something away, so you can't have that specific thing, straight away your mind's constantly thinking about it. Your brain cannot process negative, right? And it's so it's in that position where if you say, okay, I'm not going to have any honey, for example, just bring up something we talked about earlier, your mind's going to be thinking, don't eat honey. And the only thing your mind remembers is honey. And if that's running on the back of your mind, I mean, just imagine how many other people have that similar kind of thing. Don't eat chocolate. What's going on in the back of my mind? Chocolate. It's like,
but again, this is kind of the place where you can strengthen that no-go, though. So it's like if you can fight it, it's probably all right. But you can't just have that the only thing in your head.
Yeah, and willpower can get you a certain way, but when you're stressed, when life is hard, when you've got thousands of other things kind of going on, that willpower gets eroded quite quickly.
Yeah, but then see, I think this is where you can use it as a tool, right? So it's sort of like my strategy sometimes, right? So if you no-go these things when you are feeling like in a good mood or whatever, like those things are happening to you, then when those things do happen and you do have that like piece of chocolate, then your dopamine goes through the roof and then you actually feel like a lot better. So I think that's like for me personally, I do use that as a bit of a tool actually. So like, like, I don't know, like, if it's a rough day, I'll be like, right, honey today on the porridge, let's go. And then it's like, yeah, I got the honey. And then like the day is set. Because like, as much as I'm saying honey's not unhealthy, like I still just try not to have it. But yeah.
Yeah. There's all sorts of interesting things with things like that. So, for example,
Well, I don't know. Before you go into it, like, do you agree and use that as a bit of a strategy, or do you find that doesn't work for you because it just depends like how we're wired if that will
yeah,
actually affect you?
that one doesn't work for me. So I had so many years where, from the various different diets and various different things that I try to do, that um, I and especially when I get stressed, it'll just be a case of I always go back to eating badly.
But it doesn't make you feel good.
No, God,
It don't give you that like, oh yes.
no, not in any way, shape, or form.
Is it because it slips too far and you can't like come back
Um,
out of it? Because I'm saying like I'm no going it, and then but I'll still only like ration it, I suppose. Like I'll still portion it just to get that hit of like, oh, that flavor. But I guess if you don't feel like that around food, it's not gonna work, is it?
yeah, I've kind of given up that. So everything's kind of portioned. I understand what I'm eating, etc. These days.
Mhm.
So I think that's the kind of the big difference. But it's just that kind of, if something does go wrong, I'm having a really stressful time, I know that it's so quick to avalanche in the wrong direction. So it doesn't give me that sense of pleasure. It kind of gives me a sense of
Like
foreboding.
guilt, actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind
I
of
can see
guilt.
that. So yeah, again, the monster, the Frankenstein. Like it just
Yeah.
depends who you are and how. Because like it's amazing, like how much they're tied together. Like I never realized like this mindset and meals, like they literally go together hand in hand. Like I'm saying, like I'm using the meals for my mindset, and that works for me. Whereas it doesn't work for you, but it will work in another plane where it won't work for me. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well because again, things like the old adage of abs are built in the kitchen, and you can't out exercise a bad diet and things like that. These are almost like things that people present as truisms, which are kind of right in some respects, depending on again what your goals are, what your outcomes are. But while that might help you, for example, lose weight or be able to gain muscle in certain ways, what it doesn't necessarily always do is actually help you gain health. And that's where, for example, when we come on to talk about movement and more exercising later, that's kind of one of those kind of key factors alongside the moderation side of it, which just really kind of helps improve your health span. So this isn't a case of, oh, I just have to do this one thing. And I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people are always asking. It's like, what's the one thing I can do that's going to improve everything?
Don't exist.
Yeah, and it's that kind of combination. It's kind of, you look after yourself, be good to yourself today so you can be the good for others tomorrow kind of
Definitely.
idea.
But like we are in a lucky position where we can sort of like buy, or we'll say it, but like we can acquire the food that we want to eat, or like we feel we need to maintain these diets. Like some people, and you even in the past, like not in the position where you have the sort of like funds or whatever to go to have this diet. Like you simply can't afford it. Like I think if you like rewind the time like 30 years, like you'd probably find yourself in a place where you're kind of having to eat like the basics. In which case you'll have to shift that balance so much further into like getting the health benefits from the movement and the mindset and the method more than the meals. Like it's such an important thing as the meals, but it's just not everybody has access to it. And I think that is something that I do try and remain grateful for.
Yeah, I think that there is a touch on that, but I think again, there's so much that can be done as well. So, and I can go back when you guys were first born, and I find it hard. That's the way society is kind of set up. It's you're expected to have children, have a house, have a job. You're at the bottom of the ladder. Everything else is kind of piling on top, and you've got all the expenses coming out all at the same time. I mean, it is really hard being in like early 20s and 30s when you're making that kind of lifestyle change, and that's where I was there. I can remember it, and you're trying to balance the budget of running a household and everything else, and sometimes you won't make the best decisions, but there are always things that you can do. So, for example, it's choosing the right kind of meats. It's choosing things maybe there you go to places where you can get things at the right time, at the right price and stuff. I mean, we used to do it where, for example, we'd go on when it was late in the supermarkets, and you go for things that were just going to go out of date maybe the day after, and therefore they'd be on the clearance shelves and things. And that's how we could make ends meet, and it's not always, glamorous. And it does take a bit of time sometimes, but it's the way that you can make it work, so that you don't have to just go and get the beige food, and just because it's
Mhm.
cheap, because while it might give you certain things, it's certainly not going to be giving you
Well,
that balanced diet.
it's that thing in it, like, yes, it's just not giving you health, basically. Like, you're still alive, you're still surviving, you still function. It's just not giving you that, like, good
Mm.
health. But yeah, no, that is a good observation, that if you have, like, you just have to put a bit more time into scheduling it, I guess, so you can go get those reduced items. To think of that.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I have touched on with some of the clients before in the past, and I've had different extremes of that. For example, where we've had, I was like, think of a couple of good one example is a lady, and she used to be absolutely the opposite way. Every single day, she'd walk down to Borough Market in London. She would get organic, fresh everything every single day. Then she'd come back and she prepares it. She makes the things ready for the meal. Then she'd be off doing her whole professional day. She's already dealt with the kids, etc. She's coming back, bringing the kids back. She's cooking everything that's kind of going on, setting everything up, and her stress level was so through the roof. It was ridiculous. And it's kind of, okay, well, what's making you do that? Well, I've heard it's the best. Well, why is it the best? You have that kind of conversations to kind of tease out of, and it's okay. Well, actually, if that's the best, then what's like the next level down that might be able to make life just that little bit easier? So, for example, could you, rather than going to Borough Market for all the organics every day, could you go to the local supermarket and do that? Maybe could you get them to deliver it for you? What about if, for example, you went for certain things that were frozen? Maybe you went for prepared onions and mushrooms that are already cut up.
Pre-diced, yeah.
Exactly. So these little kind of things all straight away kind of revolutionized how she could utilize her time, which kind of gave her time back. Or I've had it the other way around, where we've had very people in young families, both men and women, when they've been in there, they've been looking at how could they make the change, but also how could they make the change for the whole of their family. And then it is sharing those simple tips, those things that we've kind of had to do in the past. Look for the deals when you are going shopping. Try and stick to the veg when you can. When they do have the deals on veg, stock up on them. You can blanch them, you can freeze them, etc. So you've already done them yourself. Using things like the slow cooker to be able to prepare things in the morning, so when you come home, there's a nice home cooked meal there ready for you. Even if you've had a really stressful day, you don't have to worry about recreating it. So there are ways of making a budget work.
Mhm.
It doesn't always have to be, you're going down to Waitrose for blah, 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 or whatever. And certainly we don't shop at Waitrose. Much to your disappointment, I think, some days.
Yeah, like I was going to say, like, my goal in life is to be butchitarian and shop at Waitrose. That's like, that would be a good place to be.
But again, it's making sure you fit the budget you've got, the time you've got, the goals you've got, etc. And sometimes you have to think a little bit more creatively to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's just pulling in all that balance. Like, this is why it's such a maze of no answer is the right answer. You just something will work for you.
But it's interesting, though. I think again, over the last year, you've kind of not only just turned your diet, but you've also turned your hand to cooking a lot more. So you've always been able to survive. I think you've definitely had utilitarian cooking in the past.
Yeah, my cooking skills are not the best.
So you've kind of been able to do things like beans on toast. You've just about managed to put a pizza in the oven, stuff like that. So that was kind of the old you. But
I could make chicken and rice too. Fry some chicken, microwave some rice.
But today you kind of get a lot more adventurous. You're making all sorts of varieties of things with lentils and beans and sweet corns and rices. And again, you talked about brown pasta before in the past, so you're doing different pasta dishes and things. You were even asking the other day if you could make the lasagna.
I know, I never thought we'd say that. Like, we'll see how that goes, laying the sheets down. Like, I do definitely prefer cooking to baking, because in cooking, you can just doesn't taste quite right, throw some more stuff in, or you've made the taste go weird, throw this other thing in, and eventually and the more you add in, the bigger the meal gets, so it's pretty good. Whereas baking is very precise, and I'm terrible. But yeah, the cooking is coming, and I'll be excited to see how the lasagna turns out.
Yeah, and I think just as a nod back to what we were talking about with regards to running on a budget and stuff, you still run on a budget. You still kind of work out, what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it. You batch a lot of the stuff that you
Yeah, I
have,
do.
so you don't go overboard. So again, you might make a batch of, I don't know, let's say it's a pasta of some kind. You're
That was
still
a good
freezing.
thing to bring up, actually. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so you're still kind of portioning some of those off, so it still works. So I think there's some really good habits you're kind of breaking in now.
Yeah, and like the weighing thing, like again, like an unusual approach for it. I think like I just started weighing stuff out to budget. So like instead of, but like so I weighed it out to budget, and then from the budget kind of gauged also like what my body can like run on comfortably, and like kind of merge those two answers together until it was at a point where it's like, okay, like I can use like this much raisin, like this many, like this amount of grams of raisins, this amount of grams of porridge oats, and the bag will last this long and the box will last this long, and I need to buy them together on like this date, and it'll all like merge together. And I've got that figured out now, but it took a lot of trial and error. And then when I'm making those like foodie dishes like a chili or something, like because of the method I just said, where I throw a bit of this and throw a bit of that in, it ends up like I can't use that quite the same judgment on it. But then like I have kind of learned how to like, I know how much of what I've made will fuel me. And then it's just a case of like, if I go a bit below, I need to remember I need to add a bit more veg on the side when I actually come to eat it. Or if it goes a bit over, to like possibly like reduce the carbs on that meal and then like up the carbs in a later meal. So yeah, it's all balanced, which actually stemmed interestingly from like finance. But as a result, it really did teach me how to fuel my body as well. So that's quite a cool like insight actually.
Nice one. So again, we've kind of looked at all sorts of elements from the meal perspective, from the nutrients, the personalization, the budgeting, the changes that kind of happen during lifestyle, and actually some of the enjoyment that you kind of get from it. So I think this is a nice way to summarize and finish this one off.
Yeah, perfect.
So a big thank you to all, as always, for taking the time out to listen to this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sharp Fit for Life and the Business Body Network, helping busy professionals and their teams become healthier, happier, and more higher achieving in business and in life. If you'd like to join us as a guest, or you'd just like to get in touch to know a little bit more about what we've talked about, then we'd love to hear from you. Just simply email hello@sharpfitforlife.com. Once again, thank you for listening to this episode of the Fit for Business and Life podcast. The Fit for Business and Life podcast is produced and presented by Wax Tie Limited. Copyright is applied.